Hello, welcome back to the Active Ingredient Podcast. I hope that you're doing great and that you are having a nice start to your week. It is incredible to me that we're already in April. I feel like January went extremely slow and then we blinked and now we're in April and this is the first solo of April. I was trying to find a picture from December and I was going through my camera and I'm like, oh my God, so much has happened. And yeah, we're here. And the theme of this week's solo episode is actually about going back to the intention that we had at the beginning of this year. We just recently experienced a energetic new year. It was the spring equinox, which I think I talked about in the last solo I might have. But oh my God, a blue jay just flew to the tree right in front of me. Okay, that's really cute. I hope that's definitely a good vibe. Um, yeah, I'm in New York and it's rainy, very consecutively gray days, one after the other. And I've been feeling the energy feel very, oh my God, a second blue jay? No. Yeah. What? Okay. Okay. All right, guys. Hopefully that means that this episode is going to be freaking amazing and that it's going to resonate with you. So, yeah, the energy has been for the past few days has been kind of gray, rainy, very like cozy, homey energy. And at the same time, we've been experiencing a lot of noise in the news. A lot of founders and businesses are very, very scared right now with what's happening with the tariffs. And I wanted to do a solo episode all about coming back to our original intention for the year when we all sat down and thought about what is the word, what are the words or what are the feelings, what are the energies that we want to bring into this year. We're already in April. I want us to all go back to remembering what those things were. What were they? Do they still track? And how can we root down to the core why we chose those words, those intentions, those energies? And remember them first, because I think that when there is so much noise, we forget and then we start to react in a very scarcity and fear based place. But if we can figure out a way to remember and then recenter ourselves, our bodies, our nervous systems, then we're able to recommit to that. And to me, being able to recommit to your expansive words, to the positive energy that you're trying to bring into this year in the midst of this like weirdness, this weird energy, this chaotic, and it feels very unstable. And one day it's one thing, one day it's the other. One day we're implementing something, the next day we're taking it back. It feels like it's all over the place. How can we choose to come to center and remember every single day? I think it's a daily thing nowadays. Like it's like we can't even be remembering on a weekly basis anymore. We have to be waking up every day and remembering what that is for us. And I did an episode at the beginning of the year with what my words were for 2025. I normally only have one word, but for whatever reason this year I had two. The first one came to me like at the end of 2024 and it was very clear. And then once I committed to that word, then the second word kind of just like fluttered right in and was like, hey, I'm going to join. I'm going to join in 2025. So I was like, okay, I guess this year I'm having two words. And my two commitments for 2025, or my two words and energies that I really am focused on, the first one more so than the second, because I think that the second happens more naturally when you have mastered the first, is acceptance and audacity. Those are my two norths of 2025: acceptance and audacity. And I bring that up not to make my words your words for this year, but I just do think that in the state of the world that we're in right now, acceptance, like true acceptance, even though I struggle with this word, and I think I always choose words that I struggle with because it's like exactly why I need to choose them. Like I have to work through them. It's so hard for me to discern like what is acceptance and what is just rolling over and lying to yourself and telling yourself that something's okay when it's not, right? That's the discernment that I have to work through all the time of like, what is accepting something, some situation, some political environment, some decisions that people make, all of these different things. How can we accept what is and then really be in that acceptance, like accept it for what it is. And from that place of neutrality, of being with what is and just seeing it for that, from that point, how can we be audacious enough to do the things that we genuinely want to do, that's coming from a joyous place? Because if there's something that I feel right now, really, really feel this at the core of me, is that the biggest revolutionary thing that you can do, or the biggest form of resistance, is to protect your joy at all costs right now. The way that the system can prey on people is when they are in fear. Okay. And I know that this is easier said than done. I know so many business owners that are freaking out that their business might crumble with these tariff changes. And who knows what else is to come in terms of what's going to be said, or new laws that are going to be implemented, or whatever. All of these things are at this point out of our control. How can, even within that, we find the only thing that we can control, which is to accept what is and protect your joy, literally as if it is your number one job, because it is your number one job. If we are going to make it through these next few years, we have to prioritize our joy. It's essential. And because when we do that, we're not putting someone else's belief system or someone else's decisions on what's going to happen with the country, or someone else's anything outside of you is not going to be able to disrupt your own sense of joy and your own sense of okayness, right? And so my thing, and it's something that I actually do in my yoga classes, every single one of my yoga classes, there's a really intense part of, not really intense, I mean, it's yoga, so it's not like hit, you know what I mean? But there's a part of the class where I definitely take it a little bit further, and there's a lot of movement, and there's a lot of building up that heat and that energy. And then there's a moment that I have everyone take a child's pose in like the third quarter of the class. And at the beginning of the class, I always have everyone think of the intention that they want to move with on their mat, in their day, in their week, etc. And then in the like around 3/4 of the way in, after having built up a ton of heat and activity in the body, I have everyone take a moment to just breathe, recenter, feel their heartbeat going a million miles an hour. And they're super activated, right? Like at this point, like it's thick in there. Okay. At that exact moment is when I want everyone to recenter and regroup and recommit to their intention. It is in that precise moment that I think it's the most important to be connected with the movement, to remember why you're there in the first place, and to move with that energy versus with the exhausted, I can't wait for this to be done, I need this to no, like we actually at this moment in time right now, when it's feeling thick and it's feeling like, oh my God, so much is out of our control, so much is so chaotic, so much is so intense, in this moment, how can we go back to the initial, remember the why, remember the initial why, remember the initial intention, the energy that you wanted to flow through this year on your mat, in your life. What are those things, and how can we bring that front and center every single day? I feel like I've had to continue to recenter so often because it has felt like thing after thing after thing, and like very big things. And I have a sense that it's only going to continue like that for a little bit. So I do think that remembering, regrouping, recentering yourself, regulating your nervous system, regulating yourself, your soul, your spirit, your body, your home, recenter, and then recommit. Recommit. Like recommitting will give you all the energy that you need for today. And then tomorrow, you're doing it again for tomorrow and the day after. And every day, that's it. At least for me, that's it. We are going back to end of last year. What was our intention? And how are we going to, on a practical level, remember that, regroup in that, and then recommit to that? It's truly the only way. And back to my word. So my big word really is acceptance. And then I think the second word, and maybe it's also my word for 2026, who knows, is audacity. It feels like it's like the word that's coming after acceptance. But I think I first need to, not need to, want to really work with that concept of acceptance. And I was having a conversation with someone recently, and it was about how to deal with family members that are totally and completely on opposite sides of the spectrum from you on a political standpoint, right? And this is a really, really hard one, but I think that we cannot shy away from having these conversations. I'm just going to talk what we talked about. And it was about, it's okay to feel extremely angry at what's happening, right? Like, it's not to bypass the rage, because rage is extremely fair. Like, fair. Things are wild, right? It's not to say that we're like, zenning out and just pretending that everything's fine, because that's just not true. Like, it is wild. And there are so many reasons to be angry. And any human being at their core, at the bottom of anything that they're doing, all they're trying to do is feel unconditional love. Even the quote unquote worst of them all, like, they may be trying every trick in the trade to try to get to that feeling of unconditional love. But what's really unfortunate is that most people confuse love for control, right? To me, that's heartbreaking. Like, to me, that is heartbreaking that so many human beings feel like their familiarity and what they feel like they need to defend to the grave is control. And so having that level of empathy allows for acceptance of wherever people are at on their journey. Like, can we accept? And it's so hard, but it's like, who the hell are we to say that wherever they're at on their journey, they're supposed to be exactly where they're at, even if their choices and their beliefs are so counter to yours. But I believe in my heart of hearts, truly, 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 that the only way for us to collectively be choosing the unconditional love side of things, which is complete opposite to control, like, that is the complete opposite side of control, is to accept people where they're at and ask questions. Accept people where they're at. To be on our high horse and say that, like, we are the ones that know all the answers and all that stuff, like, that could and could not be true. Accepting people where they are at on their journey, even if it is so incredibly counter to you, it doesn't mean that you need to spend time with them. It doesn't mean that you need to agree with them. It just means that you need to accept them. Because if you remember that at the core of every single human being, all any human is trying to do is trying to feel unconditional love. It's just all it's trying to do is do that, right? And again, unfortunately, most people think that unconditional love is control, because that is what they were raised with. And so as humans, what we crave is familiarity. So to me, understanding or trying to understand that, like, really, really trying to understand that, even when I'm so freaking pissed, I really try to remember this is a little kid, truly. This is a child that is trying to feel unconditional love. And the way that they think that they can get there is through control. And that will never be the case, because control is the polar opposite of love. And so the only way for that dynamic to break is, instead of alienating the people that feel like they need to be in a control environment in order for them to be safe, is to accept them for wherever they're at and love them. Because the only way that love inside of every single human being wakes the hell up is by seeing through all of the bullshit, all of the labels, all of everything, and just trying to, like, hit at that core love piece that exists in every single person. And that will allow for people to remember to remember that love that exists within them. And I know that this can sound very like, I don't even know what the word to describe, like an ideal situation, right? The only way I think that we get to a better place is by living in that kind of ideal situation. So I'm going to just keep saying things that I feel like are true because I do feel like this is true. And I don't say this as someone who has this on lock at all. When I tell you, I get so incredibly pissed. I caught myself at some point this year with one of the things that are happening politically, getting so angry that I had never done this. I was so freaking pissed. I like slammed the shit out of a table. Okay. So it's not to say that I'm not angry. I am angry. I'm pissed. Okay. And I have to, for my sake, if anything, accept, 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 and understand that every single person is choosing what they are choosing for the purpose of trying to feel unconditional love, even if it is so incredibly maladaptive, even if it is so rooted in fear. It is not okay. It is absolutely not okay. But understanding that gives me the empathy to see through a lot of that. And I think that that process of seeing through and being able to see another person as not an enemy, but a human who is afraid, allows for a little bit of a deeper breath. And I think that those deeper breaths are what help us come more together instead of go further apart. So I really didn't know that this episode was going to go in this direction at all. I knew I wanted to talk about acceptance, accepting just anything in your life, whatever it is that you're going through. Like, how can we choose to accept whatever the hell it is in order to actually move from a place of truth after that acceptance part? And so, yeah, we got to remember, we got to recenter, we got to recommit. We can't just throw our hands in the air and say, you know what, this is too crazy, I'm opting out. Like, this is the time to recommit. The part of the yoga class where you have done so much freaking work and you're feeling your heartbeat and you feel like you're going a million miles an hour and you're so ready for this to be done. That's exactly the moment where you recommit. You remember and you recommit. And that's what I'm hoping for myself too, in times when I feel pissed and times when I feel just so freaking frustrated and like, oh my God, like, please God, like, enough, you know? That's the time to, this is the work. Like, this is it. We are being tested. And I think we can all collectively agree that there is a very weird, thick energy and it's very, very separate. Think of the only goal being union. The only goal is union. And the only way to get to that connection, to that union point, is to first accept where we're at. We've got to accept, we've got to listen, we've got to ask questions. And then we have to just love people unconditionally, even if they are so freaking just totally and completely counter to how you think and the decisions that you make and who you vote for and all of these things. We have to, it doesn't mean that we agree with them. It doesn't mean that we want them in power. It doesn't mean that we want to follow that. It just means that we have to see through that bullshit and see a little kid who is scared, who all they want and probably have never understood or known is unconditional love. The only way is to be that, like ourselves be that, and then other people recognize that within themselves. It's the only way. It's literally the only way. And so I also have this belief that it's going to take this level of contrast, like this level of intensity and this level of wildness to wake us up. I wish it wasn't the case. I wish that we didn't have to go through like this wildness that hurts so many freaking people in order for people to wake up. I wish that this wasn't the case, but I do think that, not think, I mean, it's just, this is what we're living. So, wow. Yeah, I honestly didn't really think that this was going to go in this direction for this week, but I think it applies to anything. It applies to even how you want to just show up in your day, how you want to show up in your life with the people that you love, in your relationships, in your business, in your work, in your communities, anything. Like, how can we remember what were the reasons and the intentions that you had at the beginning of the year? Where the first quarter done, right? First quarter, we're going to take a little child's pose right now and we're going to go back. We're going to go back to remembering and recommitting. And yeah, I will say this is a nice little light end to the solo, is that we have had such incredible music come out as of late. Mumford and Sons new album, Rushmere, Brandy Carlisle and Elton John's new album. They had a duet album just come out. Like, I don't know. It's so funny how things happen in such interesting timelines, but in some pretty crazy times, two pretty powerful things just came out. And I see it across a lot of art. I know that there's a lot of books coming out that I'm like, it's so interesting that these books are coming out precisely at the time that we all need them. It's interesting, but it's like, that's how this works, you know? Light and dark are two sides of the same coin, and focus on those things that feel like light. Listen to that Mumford new album, listen to Brandy and Elton's new album, choose to remember to recenter and to recommit. We need more people that are recommitted, that can see through the bullshit, that can see beyond where we're at currently, looking in that direction, and also allowing yourself to feel the insane rage that comes up in this time, because it's just, there's literally no other way to actually freaking accept. I don't think, at least at this point where I'm at with my acceptance journey, I don't think that there's another way to accept other than to actually let yourself feel the anger and the rage, and then like let that move through you, and then get to a place where you can remember that these people are all little kids who are just freaking scared. They're so scared and have not felt or know unconditional love. Because I do believe that if you deeply know it, or maybe it scares the hell out of you, but I think that once you remember that, and that you deeply understand that we are only as free as our least free person. It's like that saying in team sports or in work, like you're only as strong as your weakest link. Like, we are only as free as our least free person, until we all start really understanding that. I don't know. I think that we're all starting to understand that. I don't know if we all, but I do think that a lot of people are starting to understand that. And I do think that it takes contrast in order for us to have a reason to have to wake up. You know, when things are just kind of coasting and like nothing is really happening, we have no impetus to actually have to like think about these things and feel, right? So yeah, that is what I have for you this week. I'm sending you so much love. I hope that you find your whatever version of child's pose that you can find for yourself, to breathe with yourself, to give yourself the rest that's needed in order to carry on. And that's all I have for you this week. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you next week. Bye.